Let's keep our attention with Major League Baseball and a new bat that is taking the league by storm. And it is completely legal, as they're calling this their torpedo bat. So we're going to get into this here on Live Now from Fox about it. And it gets the name from the shape of the bat. The New York Yankees smashing 15 home runs in their 3-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers. You can see just some of how this is made is the torpedo bat, named for its shape, resembling a torpedo, customized bat that tailors the barrel to each hitter, making really that sweet spot, the spot that the players use most often when they're at the plate. The Yankees using it this week, like I mentioned, 9 home runs in a game, a franchise record for them. It's been used by players like Jazz Chisholm, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, to name a few. Not Aaron Judge. He did have 3 home runs, though, this weekend. But this is taking baseball by storm early in the season. Let's be joined right now by Fox Sports MLB reporter, columnist Deesha Thosar. Deesha, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. You were at opening day for the New York Yankees. You saw that power surge unfold, and now we're getting a glimpse into this torpedo bat. What is it? Where did it come from? And how is it taking over the Major League Baseball?
Yeah, it is definitely the talk of town for a couple of days now, ever since the Yankees hit 9 home runs on Saturday, and their broadcaster actually talked about it on air, is when it fully popped off. And what I find most interesting about this is that the Yankees internally were almost waiting for this secret to get out. Aaron Judge was completely flabbergasted that this is even a story. When we tried to talk to him about it, he was like, "Is this real? Are you guys for real right now? You're asking me about this?" Because that's how old it is to him. It's old news. But for almost everyone else in the league, talking to the Brewers players, they had no idea that these bats even existed. They want to get their hands on them. Pitchers said, as long as it's legal, we're down. We're here for it. So it is definitely the new craze of the season, I would say.
Yeah, and of course, guys like Aaron Judge don't use the bat. He says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you can see with those 3 home runs why it is so taking over. And this is completely legal for Major League Baseball, correct? Can you give me a breakdown of that?
Yeah, definitely. The league has sort of put the bat design up to interpretation, as long as the teams can actually go back to the league with any authorization. It's not like the Yankees can get some bat developer today and then just put those bats out tomorrow. There definitely is a process, and the league has been fully informed of what not just the Yankees, but Bellinger actually used these bats with the Cubs last year. They're around the league in certain spots. It's just that no one really noticed them until that Yankees big homer day. So the league is all about it. As long as they are authorized before it's a green flag for them.
Yeah, it conforms to the rule. And of course, the rule 3.02, if you really dive into the minutia of it, says the bat shall be smooth, round stick, not more than 2.61 inches in diameter, the thickest part no more than 42 inches in length. And it was so very interesting because the guy that designed it is an MIT physicist. He's no longer working with the Yankees, a guy by the name of Aaron Lenhart, affectionately known as Lenny. What was the genesis of the idea with him? I know media in Miami are diving into talking to him. Where did this idea come from? And can you give me a background on him?
Yeah, his story is really incredible, of just being MIT educated. He actually taught some classes. He was very academically focused until one day after he was 40 years old. It was what let me turn to sports. And really, I think other teams are sort of kicking themselves for not thinking of this idea first, or having someone on hand to think of it first, because it is fully legal and really a simple idea, right? Just to move wood into the part of the bat where hitters make the most contact. It feels like this should have been around for 100 years. So in that way, I think it's a simple design, but it took someone like Aaron Lenny, as everyone refers to him, to come up with it. And he is no longer with the Yankees. He actually moved on to a coaching staff position with the Marlins.
Yeah, it's so very interesting. This fascinating, and it's also kind of baseball in a nutshell, where it takes a little bit to take hold and then it takes off. We know potentially the Atlanta Braves are trying to buy some 15 bats as well. Other organizations really diving in now full. Do you think it's going to be a league-wide thing that we see these torpedo bats basically in every lineup?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see at least one or two. This is another interesting part of the story is that talking to players in the Yankees that use it, it's not an easy switch. It takes a while, at least a couple of iterations, a few mock-ups to find the right bat. And even then, some guys just don't like it. The Yankees top prospect, Jason Dominguez, said he picked one up and no, that was it for him. He's absolutely not trying it. Judge, like we said, is not going to use it. Stanton did use it. So I think it really is a case by case basis. I think every guy is going to want to get that bat in his hand to see if it works, to see if he likes it. But after that point, it's really anyone's game. It might be better off in the old bat because with the new torpedo bat, it's interesting. You kind of have to hit the ball on that sweet spot in order for it to have that full effect of it going far and fast, the ball. If it misses slightly off the sweet spot, it's a worse effect than if they were just using their regular bats. So I think there's going to be a little trial and error as guys get used to this new equipment.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the sweet spot is in a certain spot. It's customized to each player because they have their specific bats, and they looked into that case study with Anthony Volpe to figure out exactly where he hit the ball most. I do want to ask you because we know there have been a lot of conversations about this. Aaron Judge saying this is familiar in baseball circles. They kind of know this technology or bat is out there. Do you think MLB ever steps in at any point? Because we did see the Brewers pitching staff, several of them, be disgruntled against this. And when you give up 9 home runs, I guess you're not in the great mind space to be complimentary of the bats. Do you think Major League Baseball will step in if it gets too out of control?
I personally don't think so, and this is actually something I was talking to pitchers about yesterday and hitters. For few years now, pitchers are well ahead of hitters. So hitters are doing everything they can to try to catch up to pitchers, and we've seen it. They have a lot of analytics on the pitching side and a lot of technology that helps them move with spin, things that didn't exist a few decades ago. In that way, hitters are really behind. 100-mile-per-hour fastballs are hard to hit on their own. But when you add horizontal breaks, vertical breaks, spin to it, it's really, I mean, anyone's guess at the plate. So I think this would have to be a huge, huge epidemic, and something would have to really reverse in order for MLB to step in. I really don't think they will. I think pitchers actually will find a way to pitch around these torpedo bats as long as they see, right, where the width and the fattest part of it is, pitch somewhere else. I think that's sort of the future of what is going to happen. I think the torpedo bats, maybe even by next year, will sort of be nullified because pitchers will just be able to handle it and negate that entire factor.
This is so very fascinating because you mentioned the sweet spot, but they're also pitching against zones. If you're a high and in pitcher or a high and in batter, you're going to avoid that area. So that's a fascinating chess game, the cat and mouse game between pitchers and batters. My last question before I let you go, because we're diving into torpedo bats, this almost feels like Moneyball, changing of the game. Are we thinking too much out of this? And is there any comparison that comes to mind for you about these torpedo bats and what they mean for the game?
Yeah, I think it is definitely the thing of the moment, right? And in that way, it is a breakthrough, especially when there's major league players and stars like Christian Yelich who have never heard of a torpedo bat. Then it has to be a breakthrough. But at the same time, I do think this is kind of the thing of the moment, and I'm not sure how much of a breakthrough it'll actually be once guys actually pick up these bats and realize maybe it doesn't even work for them, and maybe there's one guy out of 9 in the lineup who'll use it. It could be a story that dies down. If there's a whole team that's flashing torpedo bats, maybe we can talk about it being something else then. But I think right now it is definitely exciting, especially with baseball, such an old sport with so much rich history. There's just one thing that can change, and we're all on top of it and treating it like it is this new phenomenon, which it definitely is. So I think I'm curious to see where the story goes, but nothing really comes to mind in terms of a comparison other than maybe juiced balls and different sized bases and things like this that have changed over the seasons. But for now, this, in terms of bats, this is definitely unique.
Yeah, baseball and Major League Baseball been around for hundreds of years, so it's going to take more than one weekend for the game to completely be altered. Deesha Thosar, thank you so much for joining us on your off day. Obviously, the Yankees back at it tomorrow. I appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox, your insight as well.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you so much. Great conversation there about these torpedo bats and leading to at least part of the surge for those Bronx Bombers, the Yankees, as they blasted some 15 homers in that opening series. All right, this a post from Fox Sports Major League Baseball said the Bronx Bombers lived up to their nickname there. 34 hits, including 15 long balls, an average of 333 as they talked about this. So, of course, the torpedo bat may be here to stay. It could be dependent upon the player and their swing and what they're most familiar with. Bob Nightingale here, a post, friend of the program, USA Today, Major League Baseball columnist, saying maybe it's not just those torpedo bats. Milwaukee, they're down 10-0 to the Kansas City Royals after giving up 32 runs to the Yankees the past 2 days. So maybe it is, in part at least, also the other end of it, the pitchers on the mound, putting it where the Yankees want to hit. Let's take you right now out to some comments from the guy that is behind this, Aaron Lenhart, affectionately known as Lenny. He is now on the payroll of the Miami Marlins. Let's take you out to some comments because you imagine the people in South Florida, the media there, craving some comments from him. Let's listen in to what he had to say earlier today.
How long do you think it takes guys to buy into new things in baseball?
Well, this has definitely been a project that's taken over 2 years to get to this point. So whether it's one off season, a full season, 2 off seasons, that tends to be just the time scale for guys to maybe not just buy in, but also for us to help make the adjustments to make it playable, actionable on the field for them. So a lot of guys will test stuff behind the scenes, but they won't take it to the field necessarily until it's really dialed in for them. So.
For you personally, what kind of moment is this for you in baseball history? You know how.
There's a lot more cameras here today than I'm used to. I'm usually the one walking behind all of this, and someone else is standing here. It's definitely been surreal for the last couple days. At the end of the day, it's about the batter, not the bat. It's about the hitters and their hitting coaches, not their hitting implement. So I'm happy to always help those guys get a little bit better, but ultimately it's up to them to put good swings on good pitches and grind it out every day. So credit to those guys.
Still, in the history of baseball, there's not a lot of change when it comes to baseball and the equipment, but here you are at the forefront of maybe the most important object.
You mentioned how long it takes to get buy-in on this. Really, it's credit to the players that, had the conversations with me 2 years ago and were willing to be patient zero and to demo the first versions of this maybe as early as 2023 and then, in that off season and then in 2024. And so it's really been those guys that have helped develop this more than anything. So credit to those guys.
2023 when you guys were demoing it, who was at the front with you? Which guys were giving it a shot?
Honestly, I'll let the players always talk about their own experiences. I'm not going to drag anyone into this that doesn't necessarily want to be dragged into it. But there were definitely guys on the major league side and on the minor league side in 2023 that were definitely asking me questions and offering design advice and demoing them. And then it's a feedback loop, right? There's many different makes and models that have gone through this process, some of which never saw the field of play and some of which are obviously hitting a lot of home runs right now.
I got a question.
All right, just listening in there, Aaron Lenhart, affectionately known as Lenny, talking about some of these new torpedo bats that the New York Yankees and other teams have already used this season, getting a lot of credit for the Yankees based on their power surge against the Brewers, some 9 home runs in a game, a franchise record for them. All right, we did want to slide away to a quick 2-minute break. Coming up after it,